It's the middle of the week. It's Wednesday, July 19th. I am at Joel Pearl. It's time to get in the weeds as we do here on Fightful Overbooked. With me, as always, Jeremy Lambert. What do we call you? Juicy Jeremy Lambert. That's what
you gotta have. Where's your nickname, Joel? We got Dirty Dom Mysterio, Seth freaking Rollins. They gave somebody else a nickname this past week. I don't remember. On Raw, Gunther got like a nickname or something, didn't he?
Oh no, now they add the Ring General as his in quotation marks.
They add the Cryon to all this stuff. I know he's always kind of like been that, but now you gotta have a nickname, Joel. I'm Juicy Jeremy Lambert. What's your nickname? Jerkin Joel Pearl?
Definitely not. Janky, maybe. That's how
Janky?
I'm feeling. Janky. I'm feeling a little janky these days. Everything's falling apart around me, so that's just how it goes.
That's not good. Oh, we don't like that, Joel.
It's just what happens. Yeah, you got Big. Never forget Big.
Big? What was Big?
Well, John Gabrick was Big.
True. Okay, but who had the nickname Big though?
Everyone's big. It's wrestling.
That's not true. AEW's got a big show. You put that in the title. I was like, oh shit, Paul White's wrestling. Let's go.
So I did, and I said it in the description of the video. I can't use the title of the show, and we shouldn't for the first 5 minutes. Big Bronson Reed. That's the other one. Big.
Oh, okay, Big Bronson. That's the one. All right, yeah. That was the one that I was thinking of. I couldn't think of it. I was gonna say something about Drew McIntyre. I know it wasn't on the show this past week, but the dastardly Drew. I know he's a babyface now. Delightful Drew McIntyre. There we go. I got you. That's babyface Drew. When he turns, he'll be dastardly Drew.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine with me. And he'll get one of those mustaches and go, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
So AEW has their big show. We'll talk about it once we hit the past 5-minute mark on this video so that we don't get pushed down in the rhythm of Al Gore, because that's why I didn't put the name of the show.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because I found that for some reason Tony and co think that show was a great idea to make as a marketing as a marketing ploy.
They're marketing to the 18 to 49 demographic, Joel. They're all about that stuff, that red, and what would you call that other color? Like what would gut? I can say guts, right? Like
guts.
Okay. What color is guts? Is basically what I'm asking here.
Purple?
Are they?
I don't know.
Guts purple?
Purple. Shottown Spurs is Shingo, so I think Shingo's a color now.
Oh, Shingo is a color.
Shingo is a color. I see in the chat. Sure. Right, we're talking about colors. I see Shingo. I'm like, yeah,
I could show you some disgusting stuff, Joel. I got poison ivy on my legs and feet. Looks awful. Absolutely awful.
You were telling me about that.
Yeah. I sent it was like 3 a.m. his time. My buddy Sammer. I just sent him a picture of my foot. I could sell some feet pics, everybody. My poison ivy feet pics. These will sell very well. Are we gonna get demonetized for this now?
Let's wait another minute before we really give it to them. Let's get past 5.
All right. Banter for another minute so I can start talking about my poison ivy feet here.
All right, well let's load up the show real quick. We're going to talk about the AEW show tonight. We're going to preview Dynamite. We're going to talk about Dirty Dom and his big old North American Championship victory. The inmates are running the asylum at NXT, or at least the former inmates. We'll talk about that. Of course, we'll talk about Raw. Cody and Lesnar 3 is now official for SummerSlam. And at 11:15 a.m., Brian Bell from Outsports and LGBT in the Ring will be joining us. If the name sounds familiar, they are basically the person who had the conversation with the promoters of WrestleCon about the Rick Steiner situation. So we're excited to invite Brian onto the show, and they're going to talk to us about what went into that whole conversation and just the general LGBTQ community in professional wrestling, because they've gotten so much more representation over the past few years in a much more positive and mainstream way that these conversations are very important, Jeremy. So I'm excited to invite Brian onto the show.
Yeah, reached out to Brian yesterday after everything that happened with Rick Steiner and him being allowed back at WrestleCon over the weekend, and then a couple days later him not being allowed at WrestleCon. And Brian was the person who had the conversation with the WrestleCon owner to kind of explain why this was a bad idea, because The WrestleCon owner apparently did not think this was a bad idea at first. So Brian will join us. They are fantastic. Looking forward to talking to them.
Yeah, it's going to be real good. So that's at 11:15 Eastern. It's about an hour and a quarter. If you're watching us live, it's about 10:07 a.m. on your radio dial. No, on your clocks if you're in the Eastern time zone. We're here for the next couple of hours, as we always are. We're going to talk about wrestling. So we should probably get into it. If you want to show your feet, you can do it now.
Yeah, here we go. We're past the 5-minute mark. Now all bets are off, everybody. All right, so disgusting case of poison ivy. I don't know if you've ever seen this. Have you seen like poison ivy? Have you seen like what happens to people with poison ivy?
I've had it. I went to summer camp. I've had poison ivy.
I'm sure I have previously. I don't remember it at all. It's awful. It's like the worst looking stuff in the world. And I got like this huge, like it just like bubbled up, whatever. Kids are calling it a jelly bean on my foot with the way that it looks.
Don't pop it.
So it's like 3 a.m. For my buddy Sammer. And I just send him this disgusting picture of my foot. So when he wakes up, this will be the first thing he sees because I'm such a great friend. And he's just like, what in the heck? He used different language. And what happened? And I was like, I got a bad case of poison ivy. And he popped me. He goes, Uma Thurman will pay for this.
Oh, that's awful. Oh my goodness. You know what? I don't even want you to show us until we get some super chats. So go ahead and toss us.
I don't know
dollar amounts. Okay.
Here's the thing: it burst last night, so I can send you the picture. I can put on screen the picture I took and showed to Sammer. I can do that.
Well, let's not do that. Let's see if the people want it. If they want it bad enough, they'll give us some money for it. Okay.
Oh, look, I'm all for you guys giving us money. Give us money to not show this picture. How about that?
Oh no, you're gonna start a timer.
Yeah,
5 minutes if we don't hit a certain amount.
Yeah, see, Ryan's like, I'm not paying for this. Like, no.
Well, maybe you will. I don't know. But okay, if you're not going to pay us to not do it, at least toss a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to us here at Fightful Overbooked because we are here dropping content every single day. People are saying it's not OnlyFans. It could be. It could be only tubes or tube fans.
Only two. Oh, okay. All right. It's only feet. Everybody, that's what OF stands for. Only feet. You're gonna get poison ivy feet. What other wrestling podcast is gonna give you pictures? Let's get Snisky back on and let's have him rate my poison ivy feet.
That sounds delightful, and then not at all delightful. That was good. Who else could do that? Tony Atlas would love that.
Oh, Tony Atlas would.
You'd have a great.
This. I'm getting not actually yelled at by the wife. She is very scared of what I'm actually doing here.
You're just helping the economy, that's all. Boistering the wrestling economy.
Yeah, I got kids. Help pay for all of this the life that they need.
That's right. Oh my goodness. It's okay. Where do we want to start? We can start for Monday, or we can start with the big hot topic.
No, we gotta start with the dirty Dom, baby.
Wait, hold on. We gotta start with this question. Ask Darren McCarty the worst foot pick he's ever seen.
Oh man. Darren McCarty's probably seen some ugly feet in the world of hockey and everything. They get some disgusting looking feet, I imagine, being in skates all day and stuff. I remember my feet would look terrible. And the gloves smell just awful. It's just a lot of testosterone as well. Yeah, I bet Darren McCarty's seen some ugly feet.
Yeah, Vader too, because he never washed his gear. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about last night's NXT real quick, specifically that main event. Dominic Mysterio got some people in their feelings, including some people on our own website.
Haters is what they are.
Thank you. Let's address our haters. I don't have a Jeremy Lambert addresses his enemies or his haters graphic, but I do have Jeremy Lambert. So clearly we can ask the question, how excited are you for Dominik Mysterio, who loves love, to be the North American champion over at NXT?
People are mad at Dominic for some reason, or mad at this decision. Why aren't we rooting for this man? This man has been through so much in his life. At 7 years old, or 8, however old he was, he's dragged on television in a public custody battle. Like, that is traumatizing for this child. And he had to go through it in public. A custody battle is traumatizing enough. He had to go through a public custody battle where the person who got the rights to him in a ladder match, they couldn't even settle this in court like normal people. It's like, no, let's do a ladder match. It's awful. Absolutely awful. 7 years old, he got dragged through that. Then he probably wanted nothing to do with the wrestling business, but his dad just drags him onto television again because Brock Lesnar's beating that ass. And so Dom feels bad for his dad. He tries to stand up to Brock Lesnar for his dad. Brock Lesnar beats his ass. And then his dad abandons him after all of this. His sister is defying orders and dating some Australian who then she just dropped out of nowhere. Like, you know what I mean? The sister's like, oh, I really love this man. I really love it. And then just, never mind. I don't actually. Now that you approve, I'm not a fan of this person anymore. Just like a typical teenager, right? Oh, I love him because you don't approve of him. But then the moment you approve of him, no, never mind. I don't actually love this person. Just typical. So he's been through all of that. He got abandoned by his father, his deadbeat dad, Rey Mysterio, completely abandoned by him. Seth Rollins is trying to take out his eye. He had to witness, by the way, his father get his eyeball ripped out by Seth Rollins. He had to wrestle Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins beat his ass too. Every time he tries to speak, nobody lets him talk. He has things to say. He's an important person. He has things to say to the world. And people are like, boo, no, we don't want to hear you, Dominic. This man has a lot on his mind and he needs to get this out. And people don't let him talk. That's very frustrating, I would imagine. Joel, you know how it is. I try not to let you talk on this show. You're probably very frustrated sometimes, right, Joel? You're very frustrated. Yes, I know you are. So and he finds love. He finds people who accept him. Finn Balor, Damian Priest accept him. Rhea Ripley loves him, accepts him. He wins a title. And people are mad about this. I don't understand it at all, Joel. Please try to clue me in.
Can I go? Am I good?
Yeah, you can talk.
Oh, okay. I think people are angry because he's just so damn good.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He had a great... Okay, look, I can only extend this.
Okay. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's the best worker ever. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he is the most incredible wrestler you'll ever see, but they're currently striking on a very hot iron with a very hot product and a very hot team in the Judgment Day. And when it came down, the reaction was exactly what they wanted. They got the perfect reaction from the crowd. They got the perfect reaction from online. The social numbers, I'll let Jeremy speak to that in a second because I'm sure he'll take a quick gander at them. They're good. Our own Fightful account, when we posted that Dominic won in real time, we got numbers off of stuff like that. And that means something in this weird world of media and professional wrestling. The match itself, listen, yeah, it's fine, clunky at times. Everyone's trying to point to that one spot saying, oh, Wesley could have broken his neck. He rotated out of a belly-to-back suplex that Dom forgot to finish, and he landed on his stomach, did Wesley. He didn't break his neck. He didn't come close to it. He was fine. That's wrestling. How many times have we heard, oh, it's not ballet? Well, also ballet is damn impressive and very hard as well. But the point I'm making is it's not an easy sport or an easy activity or whatever you want to call it to do. So for me, I'm just kind of watching, saying like, oh yeah, he's gonna win, and it's gonna upset some people, and that's gonna be the right reaction, and they're gonna do exactly that. Are they gonna take that title away from him? No. Are they gonna make it a triple threat at Great American Bash? Probably. And someone's going to pin the person who is not the current champion, and we're back to where we started. And is that okay? Yeah, sure, because we popped a rating this week. Easy peasy. Jeremy Lambert, what have you got to say? You're here. It's fine. Are you getting the social numbers for me then?
Yes. So I heard you say that they're making it a triple threat at Great American Bash. That's very possible. They just do that, and then he doesn't have to take the pinfall in that match. Look, man, he loses every week on Raw anyway. He just lost on Raw this past week. It's okay if Dom takes the pinfall.
No, he must be unbeatable in NXT and beatable everywhere else.
That'd be great. He should. Like I said, partially jokingly, but I think I said it on Monday show. I was like, just put the title on Dom. Just do it. Whatever. I understand Wesley's had a great reign, a lot of title defenses. People love Wesley. He's been the fighting champion and things like that. NXT, it's still, sometimes they call it developmental, sometimes they call it main roster. They've blended main roster and NXT more than they have since basically Survivor Series time, when they were really trying to boost NXT when AEW came along. Like, this is the most blending of main roster and NXT they've done in years. So I'm okay if Dom wins this title, takes it to Raw. They're on Raw. They're not on SmackDown. They could probably show up on SmackDown. No one would care. Takes it to Raw, shows it off a little bit. Maybe you get some more eyes on NXT. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it, everybody. It's okay. As far as the social numbers go, here's like, this is, so you mentioned the social stuff. So a lot of these backstage interviews and stuff that they do like 30,000 views or so. Kiana James isn't afraid to do whatever it takes to win. 10K. Thea Hale backstage exclusive, 13K. Blair Davenport, Roxanne Perez, 31K. Basically every NXT video is under like 50K. Every single, Baron Corbin has 60. Okay. Everything else from NXT shows is under 50K on views. Wesley, Dominic Mysterio, the match highlights, 177. Dirty Dominic is ready to run NXT. Backstage first comments exclusive, 200K. Just his backstage comments is at 200. That's more than some of these Raw videos, by the way. Like the Becky video from Raw Talk is at 49. Bronson Reed, just a backstage thing, 38. Alpha Academy Viking Raiders highlights, 130. Chelsea Green, Sonya Deville. Everybody loves Chelsea and Sonya, right? Their little first interview, 73. 73K. Dominic's at 200 off of this backstage video. He's topping some of these Raw numbers. Like, Dominic, like, say what you will about him, the performer. I think as a character, he's very good at the character work of aspect. The in-ring stuff, I try not to knock too much as far as in-ring. This person's terrible, this person's great, things like that. Like, he still kind of sometimes wrestles like he's overthinking things sometimes. And that's, I think that's noticeable for a lot of people. He's gotten a little bit better, but he still looks like sometimes he's just overthinking and the positioning isn't always where it needs to be. And if you can kind of overlook that, then you can have fun with this. If you can't overlook that and you're like, I only want the greatest wrestlers of all time in my wrestling ring, then I understand why you're upset at this. I get it. I truly do. But as far as like the character work and the way Judgment Day and him just like boost some of this metrics that are very important to this company. You can say like, oh, who cares about these YouTube numbers? Who cares about these Twitter numbers? The company cares about this stuff. And so they're going to look at this and they're going to be like, all right, let's go. Let's run with this guy in this position. And that's what they're doing.
I'm looking at Twitter alone. The graphic with the and new has 1.8 million views. The speechless, which is the last about 30 seconds, the finish of the match with the celebration afterwards, 1.2 million. The video shoot with him in the title where he's getting photos and he's doing all the stupid poses and he looks like a dork. It's great. 936,000 views and rising. The kids got something. The group has something. How many times did before this show existed were people talking about how Judgment Day with Edge wasn't really clicking, and then Edge was gone and it didn't click immediately, but slowly they started realizing like, oh, they were this like weird comedy act almost that just looked like dorks and kept losing, and then something happened.
Dominic Mysterio happened, baby.
Dominik Mysterio happened. Send him to jail and he comes back and he's with them. That's how it works. So this is a really, really fun situation that they're in right now. I know some people are hating it, and that's fine. I see a comment in the chat says, "Don't you love wrestling because Dominic Mysterio makes you hate wrestling?" That's the best part. I want him to have that heat. So I like what they did last night. Am I expecting banger matches, which is the North American title standard?
No.
Nah, I'm not going to get that. But you know where I am going to get that right now? I'm going to get that with the NXT Championship, because Mello is, pardon the pun, he is money. He is the guy who provides and who does those types of matches. And you know who else is going to do that? Ilya Dragunov. And they're going to have a great match at Great American Bash. I'm not worried about that. Let the North American title just be a storyline title for now. For this PLE, for this Great American Bash, the world title, the NXT title, is just like a match between two really competitive dudes, and then you've got the other match, the North American title match, is just going to be a good match, but a storytelling match, and that's okay with me. I'd rather that.
Do we think this reign's even going to last long? Like you kind of mentioned it, of maybe they do a triple threat and then he loses in that. Maybe Ali pins Wesley. Wesley gets the title back by pinning Ali. Maybe Dom takes a fall. Like, here it goes. Like it can be Dominic can take the fall on that, right? Like, it's okay.
I would be surprised if Dominic still had the North American Championship come SummerSlam. And SummerSlam is about a week after the NXT PLE. So that's basically where I'm sitting on that. If he walks out with it at the PLE, if he walks out with that North American title, then so Steve and Larson have actually been talking about this a lot on their Going in Raw show. The Golden Prophecy, that the Undisputed Era at the time we're talking about, where every one of them had gold, that's essentially what Judgment Day is trying to do. And they are one step closer to filling it by having those guys win the North American Championship. By having Dom win the championship, you've got, Senior Money in the Bank ready to cash in at any moment. Finn Balor could win that world title, at SummerSlam with the same stuff that happened last night on NXT. Have Finn win the title, and then have Damian Priest, jump him and win the world title from Finn, and then jump Finn out. Clearly, the JD McDonough thing is seemingly off the table, so we have that going for us too.
What if Priest cashes in on Dom
for the NXT North American Championship?
Yeah,
let's go. As long as he gets to be in the hot tub again, we'll do it. With Triple H doing the point in the hot tub, Triple H being like, "Hey, get in the hot tub with me." Like, "No, I can't. Those days are over. It's fine." Steph wouldn't be very happy with me. No. Come on, come and party with me. No, it's fine. We'll go find someone else. So there's a bro somewhere who'll help you.
I don't care about ratings at all. I don't care about that stuff. But what I hope happens, I hope this pops a huge rating for the Dominic Mysterio North American title win. I hope this just does. I hope it beats the Seth show, and like Dom fans, all two of us, me and you, can be like, look at Dirty Dom, look at the ratings draw, Dominic Mysterio. That's what we need.
This is
I gotta fight Sean Ross Sapp.
Do you? I would like to see that. I would. You know what I really want to see? I would love to see just. I know I just talked about not having the title through SummerSlam, but there is a perverse part of me that wants Dominic Mysterio to have a very long North American Championship reign, so that week after week, Kate and Alex have to talk about Dominic Mysterio twice a week on their post shows. Let's go with that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think that the best way we can go with Dom is to have him have a long championship reign. And Kai saying this is Vince Russo level booking, and I love and hate it. I get it. I do. Oh my goodness. All right, Jeremy, what point would you like to make?
Okay, Demo Dirty Dom, or Demo Dom is a great nickname. By the way, Demo Dom, you kidding me? That's fantastic. Good job, Will. I respect that.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Let's get this super chat out of the way. Great guest today, Jeremy. Please send feet. You guys send more than that, Dan, to get them feet pics.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. By the way, our guest today, Brian Bell, they're going to be joining us in a little under an hour here on the show. We're going to talk about WrestleCon. We're going to talk about LGBTQ talent in wrestling, and a whole bunch more. They're also a tech editor, so like we'll probably talk about like the gaming side of things potentially if they're into that.
Joel, let's continue to talk about Demo Dom here. That's the new nickname. WWE just tweeted GIF reactions with the picture of Demo Dom winning the title, the and new graphic that they have up. This thing's already at like over. They just tweeted at 10:23. This thing's already at like 600 likes and a bunch of comments. It's at whatever 13.4K views. I don't know how much these view stuff matters. Demo Dom, baby, 196 replies on the GIF reactions. People, I hope that the best GIF they could have is Dom beating that ass of Rey Mysterio for being a deadbeat. That's the best reaction they could have, is right there.
It should be him playing 2K with his son and beating him. It should be that tweet just over and over again. Can't wait to beat my son in 2K13.
Or Ray, whipping him with the belt at WrestleMania. Like people just so mad at this, they have Ray whipping him with the belt. That's actually a good GIF reaction to that.
What if Ray comes out at SummerSlam? Dom still has that North American Championship and says, "Son, I am going to be North American champion." And then it's Dom versus Ray at the next PLE in the fall. Can we do it?
Yeah. They should run back Dom and Ray. That was one of the best stories going into WrestleMania. It was honestly the second best story going into WrestleMania.
Buddy, if this doesn't culminate with mask versus hair, what are we doing? Like, look at that hair that he's got. Dominic is growing his hair for a hair match. And you know where they should be doing it? If they do, and this is probably what they would love, the Mysterio family, if they do a big event in either San Diego or in Mexico. Mexico would make sense just because they do a mask versus hair match. That is kind of a staple down there. But if you could do a mask versus hair match for those two guys as a big blow off, maybe it's the end for Rey Mysterio. That would be the perfect ending to that story, in my opinion.
I like it. It could. I mean, I think Dom would be losing his hair. I don't think Ray's like ever going to give up the mask. If you really, really want to get some like heat on Dominic Mysterio, because God knows he doesn't have enough right now, you have Dom win that, and then he's like, "Oh, I finally beat my father," and things like that. And then like Ray takes off the mask, hands it over to Dom, and Dom just rips it up. You get that kind of level heat in Mexico. On top of that, he might get jumped by photographers if they do that.
Thank you for bringing that back around. I'd love to see it. I said it after WrestleMania, after the match. I'm like, they're going to run this back and it will be hair versus mask. And Dominic is very clearly growing his hair out. By the way, shout out to him doing it in like the 96 Eddie Guerrero style, because that's what it is.
True father.
His true father. Was it you or somebody? I'm trying to find it on the website. Someone once asked Dom what game he was playing on that PSP or the PSP Vita, whatever he had at the time. We wrote an article about it. Do you remember? Did you write that article?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. I'm trying to find it on the website, but it's very hard to search for like Dominic Mysterio PSP or just PSP or PS Vita. It's very strange. I'll let you look it up.
Yeah, I'll try to search for it.
But otherwise, NXT last night was a fun show. It wasn't perfect by any other means, but it was certainly full of wrestling and full of people trying to act. And speaking of people trying to act, can we go back to Monday and talk about Ronda Rousey for a sec?
What are we talking about when it comes to Ronda Rousey?
I want to talk about how she had to speak 3.5 speeches to Gonzalez.
That was normal to me because that's how I listen to all these interviews and stuff. So I was like, this is normal sounding to me.
I get it. And that's how I felt because I've talked to this before. I listen to my podcast at like 2.25, 2.5 speed. That's how people talk in my world, but usually not how people talk on Raw when they're trying to give a promo. This was not great. She was given a lot of words, and I don't think she was quite ready for that many words without prompting. What do you think of this promo? And now we've got, I guess they kind of flip-flopped it where Ronda's going to be the heel and Shayna's not. So what do you think? We're doing the match at SummerSlam by all accounts. Is it a regular match? Are we going to do a fight pit? Or is there more to this, even though we're talking about Ronda maybe being done after SummerSlam? What do you think about all this?
I think it's hilarious that they keep trying to like babyface Ronda in this, and it just never works. And I actually don't think in Shayna's like initial promo where she was like, "You ruined wrestling for me." Like, I don't know if they were trying to heal Shayna on that, or they kind of knew like, look, this is gonna make Shayna a babyface, and we're just gonna kind of go out there and have her say everything that most fans kind of say about Ronda Rousey of like, you've ruined all this. And then Ronda kind of be the cocky heel of, hey, I've done this, this, and this. You haven't done anything without me type of thing. I think they knew this is how it was going to kind of play out, and they really leaned into it more on Monday, which is a smart decision. Nobody's cheered for Ronda Rousey. They're just not. They can't babyface Ronda Rousey at this point. As far as her the promos, they've never been great, right? Like it just hasn't. She's not been a natural at that aspect of things. She's had some hits, like she's had a couple of promos. One that stands out to me was when she put the money on the table and she's like, "Find me," and all this stuff. Like, "Here you go. Here's my 100,000. I'll pay that right now." That was actually, she got a babyface reaction for that. Like, people actually liked that version of Ronda Rousey. But for the most part, her promos they've never been that great. Her ring work was very good during her first run. During this run, she's been fine. I can't think of any like matches that have really stood out. She also hasn't had much longer matches. The matches with Charlotte were fine. WrestleMania and the Backlash. Like I like the Backlash match probably more than a lot of people. The I Quit match, I thought that was good. But yeah, the second run it hadn't hit that well. This promo was she was given her dialogue, and to ensure she remembered every line of her dialogue, she speed ran that stuff. Maybe she should have written it on her wrist. Greats have done that before. So it would have been no shame in doing that. But yeah, it was what it was. And hopefully they do the match at SummerSlam. Shayna wins. And they really start to like level up Shayna, because I think she has, and we know Triple H likes her, right? Triple H gave her the big run in NXT before Rhea dethroned her. So we know Triple H is a fan of Shayna. And I think you can really do something with her coming off a victory over Ronda Rousey, assuming she beats Ronda.
What if she becomes a vampire again?
That was funny when she just bit people. That was hilarious.
I love it. But yeah, the promo was not great, but of course this is a week to week thing for Ronda. I don't know what we do from here. I don't know where this match goes in terms of, is there a stipulation? Is there not? Are there going to be too many stipulations if we start, inviting this as a stipulation match? Like what happens next? Because Cody and Brock got announced as well. Cody came out at the top of the show. Steven Jensen lost his mind. He was very excited to be there with all of his pals. Poor Jensen then got to watch Brock Lesnar beat down Cody Rhodes in front of his friends, family, and compatriots. I think my favorite part of that whole thing was the stupid SpongeBob walk he did again. Cody going to the back to go meet Brock Lesnar, does the and then you hear the chair shot. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. I have expected Cody to somehow like throw Brock out as if Cody had a plan. But no, it was very much Brock beat down Cody because adversity, and then he beat down Cody to the point where where Brock accepted the match. No stipulation made yet.
Yeah.
Are we in the ballpark of yet, or do you think they just do a straight up one-on-one for their last match?
I think we get a stipulation on this. They still got a couple weeks. They got a few weeks to add to it. They keep doing these beat downs and stuff. I assume they're gonna have another beatdown segment. It's hilarious, by the way, that Cody in his hometown, Atlanta, big homecoming for him. He's got his documentary that premieres the next day, technically last night, and he just gets beat up by Brock. Like, just fantastic booking of like, yeah, hometown, we're just gonna get you, just gonna get your ass beat in your hometown. That's what we're gonna do here.
That was his. You just know that was Cody's call too.
Oh yeah,
Cody was absolutely, yeah. He was like, I'm going to give a fiery promo. I'm going to talk about hard times in front of my mom, and then beat me up. It's fine. I'll get sympathy.
I think we're gonna get some type of stipulation because Cody's gonna come out. He's gonna be Cody Rhodes, be fired up of things, and like we got to settle this. We got to end this finally. I'm tired of doing this. I mentioned before you attack me for no reason. Like you keep beating me up. I guess he has a reason now. Cody keeps calling him out. Like if you don't want to get beat up, don't call the guy out. He's like, there's only one way to settle this type of thing, and then they announce whatever stipulation they're going to announce for this. I need Brock to bring back the tractor at SummerSlam. You know what? They're in Detroit, right? Cars and stuff. I need Brock to just smash a friggin'. I said demolition derby. Like he needs to smash a car. It needs to take like friggin' Street Fighter in the bonus round, where he has Cody Rhodes like on the car. He's just beating the hell out of Cody in the car at the same time. He's ripping the car door off and smashing Cody with that. Cody, take back car door shots to the head for the boys. All right, Cody, that's what we need you to do. Take back car door shots.
Literally the boys, not men, but for the boys. So let's think back at WrestleMania 23. I was there live at Ford Field, and John Cena got the Mustang entrance, right? Who gets the big Mustang or big Ford car entrance this year? LA Knights, yeah, or because I have a feeling that maybe Knight's going to be on the SmackDown the night before for the U.S. Championship. Who else could get that big car entrance? Get a purple Camaro for well, that's a Chevy, but if we get a purple car for the Judgment Day.
Yeah, I was gonna say Judgment Day. You could do something like that. Trying to think of like what other matches are potentially being set up or are. I could see Seth. Seth might have some wacky gimmicked car that he's coming out in. He's like standing and leading the song as he's getting driven down to the ring type of thing. I could see that for Seth.
And the horn plays La Cucaracha. That's a Simpsons reference for those who know. I don't know who would make sense. Sammy and KO coming down on it, but KO being like, I don't want to be here, and Sammy being. I also think that Sammy and KO are going to be on the SmackDown doing the tag title match there. I don't know who fits. I don't know where it makes sense, but like someone's got to do it. They have to do the Ford tie-in. It's just they've already started with all the promos. They have people behind cars, like wrestlers behind car or in front of the cars with the high beams on. That it makes sense to have somebody do it. Bianca.
Yeah, I think Judgment Day kind of makes the most sense. Charlotte might end up just doing these entrances. They love giving these big entrances to Charlotte.
She's in the back of a Ford Bronco being chased through the streets of Detroit. And then here she comes. What? It's a Ford Bronco. It's a blue Ford Bronco, though.
I say, what color
is it? Blue. What are you talking? What are you making allusions to, Jeremy Lambert? What are you talking about?
Are you serious? Do you not?
I'm well aware of 1995.
Is that when it was?
Jeez. 95, 96. It was June. WrestleMania 12, baby.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're old, man. That's unfortunate.
But I don't know who else would make sense. Yeah, Seth in a very tricked out ice cream truck.
It's gotta be the ice cream truck. I'll go fight Seth myself if he comes out in an ice cream truck. All right. I ain't gonna be at SummerSlam. I'll go to SummerSlam. If Seth Rollins is the ice cream man, I'll go fight him myself. Seth in like an ice cream garb would be hilarious to see. So it'd be fantastic.
He would do it too. It is the height of summer.
What a great man Seth Rollins is.
Brock in like a Ford backhoe. Like that's the whole thing. It's got to be Ford branded because they're in Ford Field. Cody's not going to do it because unless it's the Cody Express happens to be a Ford and not a Prevost. I'm pretty sure it's a Prevost bus. So there's that. I don't know. There's got to be someone. Leave it in the comments. Who do you think shows up in a car of some sorts? I think Charlotte's a good shout. She shows up in a Ford helicopter.
Ford helicopter.
Somehow they'll find a way. And then what else is there? Oh, new women's tag champions. This Raw wasn't like super duper busy. Like there wasn't a lot going on. Yeah, Gunther beat Matt Riddle and then say he's the best. And I challenged Drew McIntyre. Cool. Looking forward to that. But new women's tag championships. Can we pack up the women's tag titles already, Jeremy, or what?
No, this is the best decision they could have made. We love Chelsea and Sonya. We love them.
They just had Liv and Raquel win those stupid tag titles.
My favorite thing in the world. My favorite. Trish is a good shout.
That is
Trish,
a good
yeah.
But
Trish
she won
be
a Canadian car, and also she's a heel. Like, what are we doing here?
Is it like a Ford limo? Can you do like a remember Batista had that sweet WrestleMania entrance. He tripped coming out of the car, but he came out in the car. Like the getting driven in
Yeah, and
gets
a bunch of caddy Escalades.
yeah, that was a good
Because he's a big movie star. That makes
right.
sense. You
Well,
can do it
Trish
with
could kind of pull off the same thing of just like, thank you, Trish. Like, this is the kind of service that I deserve for this big match. She could pull that off.
Does Ford have a luxury? I mean, Lincoln is technically a Ford brand.
Matt McConaughey is driving it.
All right.
You know, back in my day when the wheats used to tumble around as I would drive through and I would see my old town shelter and I would stop in and I would say, "This is America. Lincoln, America."
And then it plays the cucaracha on the horn, right?
That was a real commercial, everybody. That was a real commercial. That go look at all these McConaughey commercials. All right.
Women's tag titles.
Yeah, we love Chelsea and
Yes,
Sonya.
we
This
do.
is great. Okay, but my favorite thing is like after every time they do a women's tag team titles, one of these scoopster accounts is like WWE is hoping that this team brings stability to the titles. They do this literally every single time they change the titles. They did this for Ronda and Shayna. It's like, oh, this is gonna bring stability to the titles, and then it's like, oh, Liv and Raquel. Oh, the WWE is hoping this is now stabilizing the division, and now we're doing it again with Chelsea. This division ain't going to be stable. They're going to do what they want with it. They're going to hot potato the titles constantly. They're going to keep throwing together tag teams constantly because they actually don't have an idea what they're doing with these titles. They have no idea what they're doing with these belts. They're just going to be like, all right, sure, tag team, here we go. Like that's all they're going to do with these belts. And then they're going to move on. Like they're Chelsea and Sonya are going to have them for however long they're going to have them. And at some point, they're going to throw together a new tag team that beats them. I hope Chelsea and Sonya hold them for a good little bit because the segments are going to be great. And then, you know, maybe they'll actually establish a tag team that can beat them. And then they go from there. But Chelsea and Sonya, they're going to do fun skits. They're going to defend them. They're going to find ways to win these matches. And eventually, they're going to put together Dana Brooke and Emma to beat them.
I was more under the impression it would be Candice LeRae and Indy beating them.
That's possible.
Once everyone's healed up and feeling better, they just don't care about that tag titles. And it's funny because it was Ronda talking to the New York Post when her and Shayna won those tag titles, where she said, we're going to make this division stronger and better. And I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. And they ran the story on the Post and everything. And listen, feel how you feel about the New York Post. It's still a mainstream, quote unquote, news outlet. And I'm talking mainstream in comparison to like pro wrestling reporting, where like we are a niche. We're not the Post for all intents and purposes. In some ways, thank God for that. But anyway, the point being here is that, you know, she gave an interview in kayfabe saying that she was going to make that division stronger and better and put more eyes on it. And then they changed the tag titles like 2 weeks later after they had just won 4 weeks. They didn't even give them a month. And it was just like baffling to us who are talking about this week to week that like if the story was from the get-go that Ronda Rousey wanted to do some women's tag matches, why with the known intention of going away by the end of summer, why did we do this whole thing? What did this really what did this accomplish? And like Money Mark in the chat is saying, where are the Spooky Witches? Where are Isla Dawn and Alba Fire? They had the unification match. But again, I go back to like, why do we do a unification match where the two people who won drop the titles 2 weeks later? It just makes everyone look dumb, in my opinion. I had Rick Accino, who does the Collision post show on Fightful, talking about how they're not getting rid of the tag titles isn't going to make the women's division magically better. And I said, well, it's not even about just booking it better. It's just about you've got two titles that are so undervalued and never valued at all that you could get rid of it and just make more meaningful storylines that aren't about titles. And then what will you have? Better stories. You just don't have that with the tag titles. Titles can be a crutch sometimes, and that's what the women's tag titles have become. They are a crutch for women to have a match, and they just want the tag titles, but they don't mean anything in the grand scheme of like the WWE world.
I'm with you on the titles becoming a crutch, especially these titles. To Rick's point of like, oh, if you get rid of them, then what happens? I do think there's a very real chance that if you get rid of them, a lot of these women are kind of out of sight, out of mind, because they are doing stories with women that don't have to do with it. Becky and Trish, Shayna and Ronda have nothing to do with the titles. I'd actually like to just see the titles become just a more brand exclusive type of thing. I don't like the idea of like floating champions, especially when every other title is a brand exclusive deal. The way, and this is just how I operate on things, of like the way I like to set it up is like, okay, you have your women's tag team titles. Let's say it's on SmackDown. And then you have a title, let's say like a cruiserweight title that's just on Raw. Like, all right, hey, cool. You want women's tag teams, you go to SmackDown. You want your cruiserweights, you go to Raw. A lot of other stuff obviously gets blended and everything. You got your world champions on both shows, your tag, your women's, like all of that stuff. But I like the brand exclusivity on when it comes to some of these titles. And they're never going to do this, but I do think it would help instead of always floating them between brands, because they don't have any idea what to do with that. And that's when you get all these makeshift tag teams of like, well, we got to put you on SmackDown tonight because you're the women's tag team champions. Wait, we don't actually have any teams on SmackDown. Who can we find Natalya? Natalya's on Raw, but find Natalya, find a partner, Natty. Just come on. We got to find a partner for you. They just throw together these teams and stuff. And if you have exclusivity with these titles, you can maybe establish a little bit more on that.
So does Liv turn on Raquel, or does Raquel turn on Liv in traditional women's tag team champions who suddenly are not friends after they lose the titles? I think this is one where they don't do a turn necessarily, but man, it's never been well done. The stories, like at the beginning, it was fine because it was a big moment. It was one of those, first time ever, and that's what WWE loves to do, especially when Vince was 100% in command. Now it's like, well, we're there. What do we do? And putting everyone on one brand sounds like a good idea until you realize that something has to happen when the titles aren't around, and then you're kind of like loading the show with all of these women who are not going to get any because they're just not paying attention to the tag title story. They just get kind of stuck in the background, and then once in a while they might put them out there, but they probably won't. So like it kind of becomes this weird like sinking feeling. I know I made an upward motion, but I meant a downward motion. It's a sinking feeling that they're just, you put them all on one brand, and the brand is just nothing's going to happen with the division unless the women's tag titles are physically there, the people holding it. And that just kind of sucks. Unless you do a tournament, but you're not going to do a tournament every single time you want to have a match.
Tournaments.
I mean, tournaments are fine. This blind eliminator tournament for the tag titles in AEW are another story. We'll talk about that later when we preview Dynamite. By the way, the show is called Blood and Guts. I can say that now because yes. I couldn't say it in the first, and I couldn't say it in the description or in the title, but that is the name of the show. That's breaking news, by the way. That's tonight in Boston. But I feel, speaking of which, Andrew Zarian is here. So clearly that means I said his name and he appears. Andrew Zarian.
Oh, I thought he was backstage. It's like, where? Do you have access to something that I don't? I do not see him.
No, he just popped up in the chat as we were talking about Blood and Guts. So yeah, with the women's tag division, it just feels like we are stuck with it, and they have no plans to ever make it better. Could they? Absolutely. They booked the show, which is, by the way, something I hate people saying on any post show ever, but just kind of where my brain is.
Wow, shots fired at Sean Ross Sapp.
It's not just Sean, and I hear it from so many other people, but I've heard Sean say it the loudest. I get it. But yeah, I don't like they book the show mentality, because I don't think that people who are reviewing shows should be using that particular line of reasoning in a show where it's like, this doesn't work, this could be better, but then saying they booked the show and just kind of laying it kind of flattens your point. in a way that I don't think is great. That's just, and again, that's just my opinion on it. But take all of that and say with it as you will.
People are commenting on Liv and possible shoulder injury. There was a photo floating around of her arm in a sling. People were saying it was from after Raw. I don't know if that was. There's been no confirmation on a Liv injury. I will say that. And then people were trying to find video of what happened in the match and her shoulder being hurt. You got to remember, like, if it happened in the match, they still sent her back out there to do the spot with Rhea going over the barricade. I would like to believe that if they knew her shoulder was messed up from the match, they would not send her back out there to do that spot with Rhea, because that probably didn't help. Maybe they didn't know her shoulder was messed up. Maybe it happened in that spot with Rhea. But people are really trying to make sense of all this based on a photo that's not even fully confirmed that it was taken after Raw. I mean, she literally just is coming back from a shoulder injury, and it's very possible that photo is from, months ago. And we haven't seen it. Liv has not commented. There's been no official diagnosis, and again, unless Liv is going to comment, like, there's not going to be a diagnosis, or unless WWE comments as well. But yeah, no, there's been no like substantiated, a legit report from somebody like a Sean. I think Mike Johnson does a good job at reporting this stuff as well. No, none of them have reported this, so I wouldn't get too caught up until something like that comes out.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen the photo and people talking, and yeah, it's very possible that she's also doing the Cody Rhodes thing, where wearing the brace in kayfabe like Cody did at his premiere last night, which, by the way, just pops me every time.
He's hurt, Joel. He's got to overcome. Why does this man get a documentary? The story's not finished. This is what I've been told.
Well, that's what it was. Same thing with Dark Side of the Ring. The story's not always totally finished.
He's gonna get a part 2. Cody Rhodes gets 2 documentaries.
Yes, absolutely. Him and Dominic Mysterio deserve multiple parts in the documentary.
Dominic, yes. I don't need Cody Rhodes getting multiple documentaries. No, Cody doesn't need this documentary.
Well, hold on, let's go back. JR has a book, right? His first book was him all the way up to, like, was it 99? And then he was did he do a second? Did he drop the second book?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. Jericho's got like 5.
Jericho's got like 5. Yeah. So why not Cody having 2 documentaries? If Jericho can have 5 books, which, by the way, I don't even know what he covers in, like, books.
Well, one of them is like his list of matches.
Oh yeah, I don't count that one. But of the 4 books, I'm sure he's working on a 6th or a 5th in the career series.
Yeah, probably.
But again, if Jericho can have that many books, I'm pretty sure Cody can come up with that with the other books.
Okay, but the documentary, Cody's documentary is going to come out like 5 years from now. You can cover this documentary is going to cover a lot of ground. If you're starting from the beginning all the way up until the chicken getting thrown at him, that should be the last shot of this documentary.
I hope it is. I hope it's
the way the chicken just being thrown at him at WrestleMania, and then Triple H, the last line as the narration as the chicken comes in and hits Cody and he's laying there all sad, and it's just Triple H going, "The story never finishes," and then that's the end of the documentary.
Could you imagine? They do Cody. I mean, they can't do Cody versus Triple H, but they do.
Cowards.
I know, right? Let's say they did Cody versus Triple H. You think Triple H would break something that's Cody related, but he'd do it with like a giant rubber chicken?
I don't know if a rubber chicken's gonna like break it, right?
I mean, if you load it with stuff, I'm sure you could figure it out.
A loaded rubber chicken? You're gonna put like quarters in it, and then just like, what are you breaking of Cody? Like a cigar box or something?
A bus?
Oh man, it'd be like Austin. Okay. Remember I dropped the big piece of whatever it was, concrete, onto the DX Express? What if it is a concrete chicken and he just drops that down on the Cody bus?
What is wrong with us? More like, what is right with us? What is this? The second part of the documentary is Cody until he becomes the president.
Oh man, would you vote for Cody?
No, but I also don't live in that country, so I'm good.
Why wouldn't you vote for Cody?
You know how everyone was like, "Oh, Glenn Jacobs is like the smartest man in the back, and he's so well read, and everyone should aspire to be like Glenn Jacobs." Look at you now. My wife is probably very confused by what I just yelled, but yeah, that's why.
Oh, Cyclops is better than Wolverine, advocating for
Oh
Triple
no!
H to kick Pharaoh, or Pharaoh would destroy Triple H. By the way, Pharaoh would dominate him. Just bite his leg, he'd be done. Triple H would be cooked if he got into a fight with Pharaoh. I'm taking Pharaoh 10 out of 10 against Triple H.
I think that's the right call. That's just couldn't do it. I could never watch somebody do that to a dog. Be so wrong.
Yeah. Pharaoh, Triple H would load up and Pharaoh would just catch that in his teeth. Like, not today, fucker. And then Triple H would be screwed.
Yeah. Sorry,
Triple H has got this. I think he unfortunately passed away. He had this like giant mastodon of a dog. Triple H and Stephanie did. You've seen the picture of this thing?
Yes, and it's sitting on Stephanie.
That's not nice, I don't think.
No, it's like they're having a nice moment. It's a very cute moment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they might have gotten another dog. But like this one, the trainer who Triple H, maybe former trainer, maybe still trainer, tells the story of like he almost shit himself when he first saw this dog. It was like just a dinosaur looking thing.
Massive. And they've only had massive dogs.
Good on them. They're well protected in the mean streets of Greenwich.
Yeah, those giant massives. Didn't they call one Andre?
Did they? Maybe.
I feel like they called one of them Andre.
No.
That's fine. I had a moment. Sorry, the reason I was distracted for a minute. Jeremy knows my kid went down for a very early nap because of some him being ill. So he just woke up, and I'm watching him right now. He sat up in his crib and just started clapping for himself. And I thought it was just the cutest and stupidest thing in the world. So
tell Tommaso Ciampa to calm the fuck down. All right, go back to sleep.
No, he's up. It's been over 2 hours. I think we're good for now.
All right.
Oh man, Brian Bell's going to join us in about 15 minutes here on the show, talking about WrestleCon, the situation with Rick Steiner, and LGBTQ representation in wrestling. Very much looking forward to having Brian on the show. So hopefully you'll stick around with us. With 15 minutes until they come on, let's talk about. You want to talk about the Ring of Honor call? You want to talk about just the upcoming Ring of Honor show? They finally announced a tag title match at 11:05 Eastern on Monday night.
I told you they were announcing Athena and Willow at like 1 a.m. on Saturday. Like, what are we doing?
Who's watching? Is Ring of Honor an entirely like Pacific West Coast like audience?
The show's in Dallas, so I don't.
No, the show's in Trenton.
Oh, right, it's in Trenton. Sorry.
The Supercar was in Dallas.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
2 years ago. Yeah. But yeah, like, what are we doing? It's like Tony just, I don't know. Listen, I'm sure they have metrics as to why it makes sense for them to release this at 1 a.m. if you're Eastern Standard Time. But like, what the hell are we doing? They're doing a 4-way tag match, Lucha Bros Kingdom, and then 2 other teams. But sorry, like the Kingdom are just going to win the tag.
Aussie Open's back.
Mark Davis is back. I think that's great news, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Are you still mad that Kyle Fletcher got the graphic, or they both got the graphic to themselves, and they should have waited 100%. Until after this show and they win the tag team titles to get the graphic? Best friends are the other team in this.
Woof. But I would have.
Wow.
Well, because just in storytelling, I mean, listen. If Aussie Open are going to win, then yeah, I probably would have waited to give them the graphic then. I would have.
You're a hater. We're not going to revisit this conversation. You got destroyed.
I did not get destroyed. No, I got
destroyed.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
The only thing destroyed is my feelings towards you.
As far as like this card goes, I mean, we'll probably talk a little bit more about it on Friday. The show is on Friday. A couple of things I do kind of just want to mention here because I wrote about them yesterday. Orange Cassidy did some local media because Collision is also like in New Jersey, and so like he'll probably be on Collision, I assume. But he was asked about ROH, and he's like, "I'll definitely probably be there," which Orange Cassidy could just be being Orange Cassidy. I'm just like, yeah, sure. Best friends are there, so maybe he'll be in their corner.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if we got an Orange Cassidy match on this card. Tony Khan loves him some Orange Cassidy, baby. Like, I would not be shocked if we get an Orange Cassidy match on this card.
Orange Cassidy versus the loser of the TV tournament match, which we've already spoiled, but whatever. That would be fun. Non-title, hopefully.
I mean, why not just make it a title match? Like, who cares? Orange Cassidy's winning.
I guess that it just makes that person look worse.
They're gonna lose this match anyway. Orange Cassidy's not losing, so just go ahead and just put the title on the line so we can rack up title defenses.
It's just very strange. So you think he'll be? I could see him being on the card. I mean, they haven't gotten that far with the card itself. They still have a world title match, and you've got Tony Khan on the call being like, "Yeah, this week we'll announce something," and I'm like,
They're gonna announce this world title match at like 2 a.m. tonight after Blood and Guts and stuff. Tony will still be up. He'll be super fired up after Blood and Guts and everything. He's like, justified, fucking fired up. Let's go. Here we go. Claudio Castagnoli against, and then I don't know, John Gresham or somebody, whoever it ends up being. But yeah, he's gonna be so fired up.
Phoenix is gonna pull double duty.
Oh, double duty.
QT Marshall, after beating,
it should be QT Marshall.
That's right.
Are you kidding me?
After his big win in AAA, it's gonna be QT Marshall versus Claudio Castagnoli, and then QTV comes to Ring of Honor. They become a Ring of Honor exclusive.
Do you think?
Oh God, it could be Hobbs. Just thought about that. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe. Nah, Claudio's like a heel. Hobbs is kind of a heel. I don't know.
Hobbs just beat up QT after the
yeah, but he was like, you kept your promise. Like, I think there's still, and maybe the promise was get them a title shot. Maybe. Do you think Tony Khan, Kenny Omega can talk old Coda to work this ROH show in Trenton, New Jersey?
I don't think you have to talk Coda into that.
Bro, you tell Coda that like dinosaurs are gonna be there and stuff. Like, I think Coda will do it.
An entire kingdom will be there, Coda. Sign me up. And then he meets
I see Frantic's on. See, he thinks it'd be Claudio and Coda. Like, I think there's a possibility that I think they will ask Coda. Will Coda be like, sure? And Coda seems like maybe he will be like,
okay, so fine, that factors in, and we'll get more into this after, or maybe not. Who knows? Let's just talk about it now. With Blood and Guts, if Coda pins Claudio, then yeah, that's probably what they'll do.
So my other thought was, do you think maybe Blackpool loses, maybe Pac takes the fall, and we get Claudio and Pac? And Claudio's not happy that Pac lost the match for Blackpool. And so we get Claudio and Pac as the main event.
I still think there's a story for Pac going to All In more than there is the immediate.
Maybe, but they gotta figure out something. I assume they have something figured out. My favorite part of this Tony Khan media call, by the way, was when he was talking about letting Eddie Kingston do the G1 and stuff. And he's thinking like, yeah, I tried to figure out if I can fly Eddie back to do ROH and the same day as he's wrestling in the G1 and stuff. Bless this man for like, I was going to pay for this travel. Tony Khan's got the Super Mach 5 ROH private jet going over to Japan, getting Eddie after he just faced who's Eddie facing? I think he's got a match on Friday. Let's see.
Let's see. To Japan.
Yeah, I got it.
Got it?
He just wrestled Evil today. This man is missing.
Did he win? Did he beat Evil?
No, he lost to Evil.
How do you lose to Evil? Former New Japan, former IWGP World.
You know what? Eddie could have done this, by the way. Eddie's not wrestling again until Sunday.
Oh.
He could have easily flew back after the match tonight. He wouldn't have made Blood and Guts, although that would have been fantastic if he comes out at the end of Blood and Guts. He wouldn't have made Blood and Guts. You know what? All right.
You think
I'm not writing off. What?
Oh my God. You think it's a big surprise they're going to do it?
I'm not writing off Eddie Kingston being able to work this ROH show. Tony Khan says it's not feasible, but it is very feasible. He just finished wrestling the Evil match a few hours ago. He gets on the private plane. He goes over. He gets to Blood and Guts tonight, comes out at the end. He doesn't have to be back until Sunday morning to wrestle in the match. Who's he facing on Sunday? Let's see here. He's wrestling Hanare on Sunday. He doesn't have to be back. They can change the match order on this, by the way. It's technically the 4th match. It can be the 7th match. It's not that big of a deal. They're headlining this friggin' show with David Finlay against Evil. They don't care about this match order, folks. All right? That's your headlining bout. Eddie Kingston can headline this show against Hanare. I've talked myself into Eddie Kingston being the opponent for Claudio.
The G1 is very much a lights-on tournament until you get to the finals. I don't know if you've been watching. I mean, I'm sure you've been watching bits and pieces, if not everything. But like, it's a very lights-on wrestling show, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal in terms of going to the matches. Watching them, it's great. But yeah, listen. If they did it, I'd laugh. I think it'd be fun, but I don't think they will because the back and forth, and if you know Eddie's like aversion to doing it, I think that's enough for him to be like, not happening, not doing it. And number 2, the risk of injury is something that is very highly in the minds of all parties. It's not just a Tony Khan thing, but I'm sure on the New Japan side, if I'm Gato and I've been booking this whole thing a certain way, because the G1 is typically a very like nuanced book in its own way. I don't think they want to chance it. And that's my feeling.
I'm going to tweet right now. Maybe Tony will reply to me. I'm not Bix, so I don't know if he'll be able to reply to me.
Have Bix tweet it for us.
Yeah.
He's on a show sometime this week, so do that.
I'm going to tweet. Tony said it's not happening, but Eddie isn't wrestling until Sunday in the G1. Just wrestled this morning. Send the Super Mach 5 private ROH jet. It can happen.
Send the Jet of Honor.
ROH is Friday. The Jet of Honor. That's good. Private Jets of Honor. Super Mach 5 Private Jet of Honor. That's what we're calling it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. This is actually what we're going to do.
Yes. All right. Let's see if Tony responds to me here.
All right. We'll see. I think he's a little busy today in Boston, but we'll see.
Is he?
It's early enough. Call time's probably not till 1 o'clock, so we got plenty of time.
It'll be fine.
Miz comments on the possibility of Miz and Mrs. season 4, by the way. Just saw that article. Let's go. Let's do it. I hope they do a Miz and Mrs. season 4. I need more Marjo in my life.
Yeah, he said that right now it's possible. We'll see. Things are kind of up in the air. It feels like they'll have it come back. Like
what if Marjo's holding out for a spinoff and that's why they're not doing season 4?
Oh, that'd be great. I would love that, honestly.
Marjo and what's Mike's dad name again?
Just the Mrs. Dad.
The Mrs. Dad. I'm pretty sure. George, isn't it George? It's George Mizanin.
Yeah, I think it's George.
Marjo and George have a spinoff together, like The Odd Couple. Let's do that. Why wouldn't we want that?
I'm fine with that.
I had to wait for you to be like, am I okay with that? Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I had to think about it for a second. Yeah, I like it.
What's the worst that could happen?
Man, Miz and Mrs. draws, right? It's a good, wholesome reality show.
Oh,
by
yeah.
the way. If you've never seen it, like that's a good, wholesome reality show. I think it should happen.
I think it's it. I think that's what they need is the 4th season, because it needs to do more than Total Divas. It needs to have more seasons than Total Divas.
They're gonna bring back Total Divas. I got a feeling.
With who?
Oh, they got a whole new cast. The Cavenger twins. Once they get going, they're gonna have them. You saw that TikTok of the Cavenger twins and the Bella twins like doing the whole passing the torch thing. They're gonna bring back this Total Divas thing. It might be NXT centric, which would be hilarious because I think an NXT one would be fantastic because they're all in Florida. They're not like traveling and stuff. So I think you could get a lot of good material out of this.
You're kind of selling me on this, and I kind of dislike this.
Why? What'd I do?
I like the idea of them doing a NXT Total Divas thing. I don't know what they'd call it, or maybe let's call it Total Divas Florida. But there's something, I don't know. There's something there, and it's very upsetting.
Total Total NXT is what you call
Total,
it.
total NXT, but it's TEA.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can call it divas because they don't like that term.
No, they don't.
Anymore. Yeah.
No, there's only one diva now, and that's a quintessential diva. It's Giselle Shaw.
True.
So unless Giselle's going to be part of it, she's probably not. I don't know who could be on the new NXTEA. I'm now set. It's just going to be NXTEA.
Joel, you had a good setup with the Giselle Shaw and into our next topic. Listen to yourself sometimes.
I don't want to listen to myself any more than I have to. I listen to myself through my ears. I listen to myself through you. It's just I hear enough of myself. So I guess with that, we can bring on our guest, can't we?
Yes.
All right. Joining us now from Outsports and LGBT in the Ring. Very excited to have them with us right now. You know what? Let's just let them speak for themselves. Brian Bell joins us now. Hello, Brian. How are you doing?
Hey, y'all. How we going? I'm doing all right. Thank y'all for inviting me onto the show.
It's great to have you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Yes, thank you for waking up early. I know you're on the West Coast, and it's 8:13 over there, so we appreciate you joining us early.
Yes, bright and sunny out here in the Pacific Northwest. I've been trying to make a habit of waking up early over the last week or so, and so like any excuse to get me out of bed around 7 a.m., I'm okay with right now. Y'all caught me at the perfect time.
There's one thing I love. It's the summertime where it forces you to get up early. The sun is up. You can get up too. It's not dreary and gross outside, right? It's not so bad.
Especially out here where like, usually, whenever my spouse and I like go to sleep, like we sleep with like our bedroom windows open and stuff because like, you get the cool breeze of everything like that. And then you have to wake up because this all of a sudden is starting to creep up. It's going to get like 95 out here today. And I grew up in Georgia. I left Georgia partially because of the Georgia summers. And now it's followed me out here and it's very annoying.
That's the way that it goes though. It's like when you travel and you're like, oh, I'm going to ditch the rain. And all of a sudden it's raining wherever you go.
Well, see, I don't mind that.
Okay.
I came out here for the rain and I don't get it as much as I thought I would.
I live in Ohio. I can't say anything about any type of weather. Ohio's like the worst state in the world. So wherever you're living, it's got to be better than here.
I enjoy it.
So let's get right into this. You made some headlines the last couple of days. You're in the news because of the Rick Steiner situation. How did you get involved specifically in the conversation and the discourse? And talk to me about where it started and how it all came through.
I mean, so this really all started back in April, whenever the initial incident happened at WrestleCon, right? Actually, March 31st, which, was also International Trans Day of Visibility, which added a lot of extra heat onto this whole situation, considering that Giselle, is an out trans woman in pro wrestling. I was in LA for WrestleMania week down there, and, whenever that happened, like I just, started doing my job and was reporting that out. And then, after that initial like wave of stuff, like anything, you move on to other stories and that sort of thing. And then Sunday, all of a sudden you see the announcement from WrestleCon that Rick and Scott are going to be at the convention in Detroit in August around SummerSlam. And I just jump back into like work mode. I'm like, all right, well, I need to figure out what's going on here, especially after reading the statement that Michael released alongside that announcement. So yeah, I reached out to Michael, just to, I wanted to get more information about this so that I could cover it properly. And whenever I reached out to him, like he asked me if we could do a audio interview instead of, just answering email questions, which, those kind of talking to people is like way better than like having people answer questions via email in this line of work. So I agreed to it. And we sat down Monday morning. I woke up early for him as well. And we spoke for a little over an hour about everything. And that entire conversation went up on the LGBT in the Ring podcast feed Tuesday morning around the same time that my article went up on Outsports. And then all of a sudden, like it just went really quickly after that, right? Like we had our conversation, and all that stuff went up. I had to go to a doctor's appointment Tuesday morning. So like as soon as like the article and everything went up, I was like out of commission for about an hour and a half. And then I come back, and that's, whenever I started hearing rumblings that there was going to be another statement. And then that, and I talked to Michael, and Michael informed me that they were going to be releasing that press release about removing Rick from the convention. And I, ran with that, updated my story, and then he told me he was going to like reference our conversation in the press release. I did not realize it was going to be like exactly what it was, and so like seeing that, like that just kind of blew this whole thing up, to where a lot of people like were coming out very supportive of, my speaking with Michael speaking with me. Obviously you got the random Twitter trolls that were not going to give like the breath in this moment, but yeah, like it was interesting for me to see how this whole played out, because in my mind I was just like doing my job as a journalist, right? And then to see that Michael was like citing our conversation specifically in terms of like creating a code of conduct and an anti-harassment policy that is now being adopted across all the major wrestling conventions, like, and our conversation kind of leading to him, giving Rick the ultimatum in that way. Like I never expected for him to credit me as much as he did on that, and that was kind of surreal. And yeah, now here we are now. Like this is it's just been a very wild and humbling and very heartening 24 hours, I would say.
What was your general sense in talking to Michael, like during the conversation and then after the conversation of, did you think, okay, we're making progress, he understands, or were you like, all right, I'm not really getting through to anything here?
I thought after our conversation that there was definitely some information and some perspectives that got through to him. Like I think if you listen to the podcast, you hear like very near the end, like he basically agrees that Rick should make a statement, and that should be contingent on him joining the convention. And like at that point, I didn't know that he was like, giving him 24 hours to make a statement before anything was going to happen. I didn't realize that him removing Rick was on the table as quickly as it was because of all that situation. But like he was open to the conversation. He said multiple times, like, I wanted, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation was I wanted to get a different perspective. I wanted to learn, because clearly, like what I said on Sunday in my statement, wasn't good. It didn't communicate these sort of things. I don't necessarily, that's all paraphrasing. I don't want to put words in Michael's mouth per se, but he was very open to my thoughts. And I think a lot of the criticisms that he faced on social media as well, he was very receptive.
You mentioned there was talk of a code of conduct being made for WrestleCon. Is that something that you are either going to be a part of or would like to be a part of in its formation?
Michael has not reached out to me about being part of that. I know they have like a first draft that's already up on their website up there. I don't necessarily, that would be an odd thing to do just in terms of like treating like the separations of the job, right? In that way, like I'm definitely like, I'm glad to have the conversations there. I'm glad to like look over something and then make critiques, like maybe not necessarily like being in the room and that sort of thing, because I still feel like you can impact this stuff by doing that specifically. But for me, like personally, like I don't know, like wrestling media, you can blur lines a bit more at times in an acceptable way, at least to like your audience, as opposed to other areas of journalism. I don't necessarily know if that's a good or bad thing, but I try and like keep that separation as much as I can at times. I say that as someone who like promoted a wrestling show last year. So I don't know. Like let's put it this way. If Michael asked me, I would think about it, but I don't necessarily know if I would say yes or no at this very moment.
The first statement that came out, I know you reached out to Michael, you had the conversation with him after, but what were your initial thoughts on the first statement that just Like, what kind of stuck with you of like, okay, you know what, this isn't great. Let me try to have a conversation with him.
Well, my initial reaction was frustration because there was so much, so many of the comments that he made about like justifying Rick coming back and around, events that publicly hadn't been known around the March April incident that he talked about there were expressed with such vague terms. Like there was really no concrete information there, and the fact that yes, Rick apologized privately to WrestleCon staff and Impact staff and other wrestlers, notably not Giselle. Giselle chose not to be there, and I completely stand behind her 100% on that decision. Like she doesn't owe Rick or anybody that time of day. But I think it was really just the vague nature of it and kind of looking at the reasoning behind it, right? Because we haven't heard from Rick in 3 months. No one has. People have reached out to try and talk to Rick. I have reached out to try and talk to Rick. I reached out to the Cherokee County School Board to try and get them to talk about this situation back whenever it first happened. And luckily, they were on spring break, so they were able to have a reason to not respond to emails for a week. But I think, like, looking at that aspect specifically, like, Rick has not done anything publicly to atone for this. He has not done anything to show that, as Michael put it in his initial statement, that he has learned from this at all. And the fact that that initial statement had none of that evidence there was supremely frustrating. And that was something that also came up in our conversation. And then, Michael kind of pointed to, like, maybe he was a bit, he was basing his opinion based more so off of that private apology than anything. And that was probably short-sighted of him to do, especially considering that, he hadn't really gathered the LGBTQ perspective on this whole situation and that sort of thing. Not to mention the fact that there was an apology video made in April while Rick was still in Los Angeles that was never released.
Sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Oh, I didn't know if it froze up for a second. So hold on. Going back to that. So there was an apology video that Rick made that never saw the light of day.
Yeah, that came up in our on the interview that's on the podcast feed. Like, Rick made, after the apology meeting that happened, the private mediated event, as Michael put it in that Sunday statement, Rick made an apology video, and Michael encouraged him to release it. And Michael said, and whenever we talked, like, that video was something that he wanted Rick to release. Rick decided not to. Rick asked Michael if they would release it on WrestleCon's Twitter account, and Michael declined because he didn't, at that point in time, like, he thought that if he did that would look like WrestleCon is supporting Rick, and that's not something that he wanted to do. And so, but, like, outside of that, like, it just never got put out there, and there's really no explanation why. The only person who knows why that didn't happen is Rick.
The LGBTQ community has been so interesting to me in wrestling because there was a time when wrestling was not very, welcoming and inclusive. And in some ways, unfortunately, it's still somewhat like that. But in situations like this, you see the LGBTQ community kind of rally together and support each other. Can you talk to me a bit about just the community itself and, like, how it's grown in the professional wrestling circle? Because you're seeing a lot of not just talent, but just a lot of fans who are openly part of the LGBTQ community getting more and more involved there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a wonderful thing to watch the growth really explode over the last, like, 5, maybe going back 7 years at this point. I got my job at Outsports at the perfect time. Like, I started there at 2019, and it's just been hitting the ground running and watching, more people in wrestling come out, more people in wrestling that were already out, being in elevated positions, and seeing attitudes towards LGBTQ people within the pro wrestling world change a lot. And that is, I think, contributes to why you're seeing more vocal and more very much out there LGBTQ pro wrestling fans as well, because they're seeing people that represent them now on, like, not just the independents where a lot of this really began, like so many other things in pro wrestling, but you're seeing them on like major televised promotions, nationally televised promotions. You're seeing them all over the world. Like, I do the QWI 200 list every year, like the top 200 queer pro wrestlers for the year, and I've included wrestlers from like Chile, Brazil, Japan, Finland, Spain, Belgium, Italy. Like, it's all over the place, and the community is out all over the place, and they are being supported, overwhelmingly supported. Like you said, there are always issues to work on. There are problematic people within this industry that still have a presence, unfortunately, in that way. But at the end of the day, like, LGBTQ people are really thriving in pro wrestling over the last 5 or so years, and it's been wonderful to watch, and I can't wait to watch it grow more. Like, this last year, like, whenever I did the 2022 list for the 200, like, I had to evaluate like 500 people for inclusion on that list. We're at that point. I could do a PWI 500 ish sort of thing if I wanted to. That's too much work for me since I'm the only one that does it. But at the same time, like, it's amazing to see that no matter how you express your queerness, how you express your gender, what part of the community you belong to, there is someone in pro wrestling that you can find and look to that you can see yourself in. And that's a beautiful thing that we have not had historically in pro wrestling.
I know a lot of people have kind of been at the forefront of that. Effie gets a lot of credit, especially with Effie's Big Gay Brunch, which has become like just a giant party whenever the show happens. But I wanted to ask about AC Mack, who just wrapped up his career, and
yes,
he's retired. But AC Mack is somebody who really like put the community on his shoulders and was first openly gay world champion and everything with the IWTV World Heavyweight title. You speak to just AC Mack's importance of the community.
Oh, sure. First off, absolutely love AC Mack. Adore that man. I've had him on the podcast multiple times and that sort of thing. He was the QWI 200 #1 last year after winning that world title back in January of 2022. Mack is someone truly special, both for like what he has done, but also what he has represented, not just for the community, but for the region that he came out of. Right. Like I said, I grew up in Georgia. I lived in Atlanta for like 11, 12 years before I moved out west. Right. So I have very close ties to Atlanta, and to see someone like AC Mack, who has close ties to Atlanta as well, really be one of the people that put the Southeast on his back, so to speak. And it wasn't just him, but he was a major part of that, with his Action Wrestling Championship reign, winning the IWTV world title down there, bringing uncharted territory down into the TWE arena in the outskirts of Chattanooga, Tennessee. He helped put a spotlight on a region that, has been a little wishy-washy when it comes to sustained growth in independent pro wrestling and sustained recognition in independent pro wrestling as well. And at the same time, he's really elevated a lot of the I guess, purview of LGBTQ pro wrestling through that championship reign, especially last year. Not to mention doing that while being an out gay black man in Georgia, which, granted, Atlanta is a friendly queer city, I will say, but at the same time, like, I lived in Georgia, I know how that can go, and it's amazing to see the strength that he's shown and the people that he's inspired too. He came out of WWA for the school down there, and I had Rico, his partner, on before. I had both of them on the podcast before his final match that he just had. But when I talked to Rico, like, Rico and I were joking, like, there's it's getting to the point where there's like too many gays at WWA 4 at this point. And that is an amazing problem to have. And without people like AC Mack, Ashton Starr, Danny Jordan, Alex Kane, you don't necessarily have a place where people from that community can feel comfortable doing that and can realize that they can find success in that as well. And I think that that's really, at the end of the day, his legacy is being an inspiration to so many different communities that have celebrated him, and deservedly so.
It's really funny that you mentioned, it's a good problem to have, having so many out wrestlers in training and also fans and everything. What do you tell a wrestling fan who is both part of the LGBTQ community and is maybe a lapsed fan that was turned off from the way wrestling used to portray anyone within the queer spectrum, or not spectrum, but within the queer communities?
Go watch Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Go watch Pro Wrestling Vibes Paris is Bumping. Go watch the Cassandro Cup tournaments. Go watch Hood Slam. There are so many promotions now that not just feature LGBTQ people, but are led by LGBTQ people and understand the perspective that we have and infuse that into pro wrestling in a lot of ways. Not just our perspective, but our culture as well. Paris is Bumping. That whole thing is bore out of, the ballroom culture of the 80s in New York City, which is an explicitly trans POC space that Billy Dixon infused with pro wrestling into an event that was, I went to I think they ran it 3 times. 2 of them had fans at it. I went to both of the ones that had fans at it. It is one of the most affirming spaces for LGBTQ people and pro wrestling fans that I have ever been in. Same goes for the Big Gay Brunch. Like, that is, like you said, Jeremy, that is just one big party. It's like they took 3 hours to just threw an entire Pride weekend with some blood and some smacking into 3 hours in like a hall where it is way too hot and you're sweating on each other. But it is so much fun. Yeah. But yeah, it's just understand that there's more to this than what you see on TV. There's more than just WWE. There's more than just AEW or Impact or Ring of Honor or New Japan and that sort of thing, which all of those companies do have people from the community within them. They all have some form of LGBTQ representation on them, which, by the way, shout out Sonya Deville, finally winning her first championship and being one of the longest tenured out LGBTQ person at WWE at this point, but also being a huge advocate as well as being a wrestler there. So it's just understanding that if you're not seeing what you want to see on TV, there are other places. IWTV, Fight, Premiere, Remix, that new one that just launched with Defy. Enjoy Wrestling's on there, and Enjoy Wrestling, for a company that's not necessarily run by queer people, that show has queer people up and down the card. Shout out Edith Surreal, their champion, and Envy Young, their first champion. 2 outstanding names from the queer community in pro wrestling. So just understand that there is something out there and look for it and find what you like.
Brian, I want to thank you for joining us today. Go ahead and plug everything, and any closing comments that you would like to make.
Yeah, sure. So you can check out my pro wrestling writing at Outsports. You can check out the podcast LGBT in the Ring. New episodes released every Thursday. Every once in a while, you get a bonus one like this week, obviously, but typically new episodes every Thursday. You can support that show on Patreon, patreon.com/LGBT Ringpod. We have bonus shows that go up there on a monthly basis as well. And I guess you can follow me on Twitter if you want to, at WonderboyOTM. So there we go. I typically forget my own Twitter handle at times when I'm doing plugs. So there we go.
And Brian, thank you again for joining us, and thank you for having the conversation with Michael and everything to make things, in my opinion, right with WrestleCon, because I think a lot of people were frustrated when all of that came out, and I saw the quote tweets and the replies to it of what are we doing here with Rick Steiner? So you did something very important for the wrestling community overall by reaching out to Michael and having that conversation with him. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for waking up early. Everyone, go support Brian and their work. You can see the link there at LGBT Ring Pod. I want to make sure I get that right on Twitter. Yes. And then you can also follow Brian on Twitter as well. And I will get this correct as well. Wonderboy OTM on Twitter. And the links are in the description below if you're watching this as a singular cut video. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Go back to sleep if you need to. We really appreciate it.
I've got enough coffee in me at this point. I'm good to go. Y'all take care.
There you go.
I'll go for a hike. Let's go.
There you go, everybody. Brian Bell
big
from
thanks.
Outsports. Yes, big thank you to Brian for joining us this morning.
It was a really good chat. That was again. This has been this whole saga of the WrestleCon Rick Steiner situation and everything that went down has just been such a pain in the ass in so many ways.
It was. So look, I covered a lot of it when it happened in March with, okay, Giselle came out and said, like, here's what happened. And, you know, Rick never really said anything off of that. And WrestleCon made the statement of like, we don't tolerate this. He's been banned from this event. I went back and I read the statement and I don't think they ever said he was banned from future events in the initial statement. I'm going to pull it up here just so I have it correctly. Okay, so the initial statement after what went down in WrestleCon WrestleMania was WrestleCon regrets the events that took place at yesterday's convention and apologizes to Giselle Shaw. We aim to promote a safe, inclusive environment for all LGBTQAI plus members of the wrestling community. This issue has been addressed, and we hope the remainder of the convention can be a positive experience for all. So they never said anything about him banning him. It did say, I wrote, according to PW Insider, Steiner was informed he was not allowed to enter or take part in the remainder of WrestleCon's events. Remainder of WrestleCon's events makes me believe it was just the WrestleMania weekend stuff. So it never said he was banned from future events as well. People just kind of are like, hey, yeah, he's probably not going to be welcome back. That doesn't, why are you going to have him back at this? And then, of course, like Brian was saying, the news happened. It's WrestleMania week. There's more news happening. You kind of just move on from all this stuff. But it was very out of the blue that I think it was Sunday that WrestleCon put out the statement of, hey, Rick Steiner and Scott Steiner, they're being paid by whoever it is, whatever.
Tony Hunter promotion.
Yeah. The Steiners are here. Like, here we go. And everyone was very caught off guard by this because for months now, we didn't hear from Rick. As Brian was saying, like, Rick didn't say anything. The school board, like, they reached out for comment. And as Brian was also saying, like, they were on their spring break when that happened. So they didn't have to make a comment. And then again, just everybody, the news cycle rolls on, right? So we just never heard from Rick. And the statement put out by WrestleCon was very much of two things really stuck out to me on that. One, can you please spell Giselle Shaw's name right? Like, if you're putting out this statement, please do not use two L's multiple times in her name. Like, just get that part correct. Two was the apology of all the positive things Rick did and was not publicized is immediately apologize. He apologized to members of WrestleCon staff. He apologized to many of his fellow wrestlers and offered apologies to members of Impact Wrestling staff that chose to hear from him in this private mediated event. Giselle chose not to attend Rick's apology, which was 100% understood, supported, and still supported to this day. What's hilarious, and that's probably the wrong word, but what stands out to me is, like, did they just like have at 11 a.m., please attend Rick Steiner's apology event in meeting room A? And like, what are we doing here? This doesn't show any growth or anything like that. Like, and then the part of, it's been 3 months. I feel Rick has learned a lot from his huge mistake. Like, what has he learned? Yes. What has he learned? And then Rick will forever be on a 0 tolerance scale moving forward. And then, of course, they're like, this is not to imply that everyone gets one free strike. Like, everyone can make transphobic, homophobic, racist comments. You get that strike, but as long as you hold your apology seminar, you're welcome back. It was a very tone-deaf statement. Very tone-deaf statement. And they did it because someone was going to pay them money to have the Steiners there. It was in Michigan. So it's like, okay, here we go. Steiners, they're going to draw for us in Michigan. And I'm glad Brian reached out. And I feel like it had to come from someone that was part of that community. Because you and I reach out and be like, hey, what are we doing here? It's not going to hit as hard as someone like Brian from that community being like, all right, here's what you need to actually know. Here's why This is not good. Let's have a conversation about that. And I am glad that Michael from WrestleCon was open to all of this. He could have been very dismissive of just like, nope, we're getting paid however this much to have the Steiners deal with it. We feel that Rick has apologized and done enough. So we got a good ending to all of this. It's a shame that we had to take this course to get there. But this is really, I think Michael is actually an example of actual growth in this situation and actual learning in this situation where Rick Steiner ain't done a damn thing by all accounts.
So I'll just, I'll tell you what I said on Sunday when that statement was released. I had tweeted out, the only thing that Rick Steiner learned was that people are listening to him in public, and now he can truly say how he feels about others. Yeah. Show me that he's done real, tangible work with the LGBTQ plus community, and then I'll consider some positive shift in his views. That is the only way that I would consider Rick Steiner being welcomed to anything really at that point. And of course, that's just how I see people when they deserve a second chance. In my eyes, is when they show tangible growth. And then the statement comes out from the conversation that was had with Brian, and I said, like, okay, turns out the promoters gave Rick 24 hours to make a public apology. Guess what Rick didn't do? Make a public apology. I said kudos to Brian Bell for opening the dialogue with Mike from WrestleCon, and I said, you know what? Since Mike is big on second chances, Mike is the one of the promoters behind WrestleCon. I said I'm willing to give Mike a second chance because he listened and learned from a mistake. When somebody shows growth and actively seeks to do better, that's when we should be more willing to give a second chance. Is Mike absolved and is WrestleCon absolved of all wrongdoing? No. Can you choose to not, take this as growth or whatever? You can take from it whatever you want. My personal opinion is, and again, I'm a straight white dude who lives in Toronto, so my opinion on this is only my opinion, and someone else is going to potentially feel differently, and that's okay. I am more willing to give more leeway to Michael than I am to Rick Steiner in terms of showing growth for a community of which I would like to consider myself an ally. I would like to consider myself someone who supports anyone and everyone in the LGBTQ plus community. I want to see growth. I want to see someone show me that when you screw up, you're going to try your best to make it right. And Michael did that, but Rick clearly hasn't, and clearly has no intention of doing so.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because he had his chance and he didn't say anything. The fact that he's been silent this entire time kind of tells you all you need to know. He thought, and look, he was correct for 24 hours. He thought it would blow over and he could just do this stuff and it would be fine. And you know what? And this is sad to say, it honestly may have been had he not just booked a WrestleCon appearance. But because he booked where everything happened at first, it became a deal. And rightfully so, by the way. Like, it was like, wait a second, didn't Rick do this at your convention? What are we doing here? If Rick just does these local appearances and stuff that he may still be doing for all I know, I don't keep up on the Rick Steiner circuit. If he just keeps like doing this stuff, it's very possible he could have just kept going on and on and on and things were fine and kept making his money. But he went back through the WrestleCon and now it became the deal that it became, and again, rightfully so. So whatever. I got no time for Rick Steiner, even if he does make an apology at this point. I need an apology to Giselle Shaw, and I need a private apology to her. And if she doesn't want to hear that, that's completely her right too. I don't even blame her at this point. The meeting thing is just total carny pro wrestling of, yeah, here we go, 11 a.m., attend the Rick Steiner apology tour.
Knowing who we know at Impact and some of the relationships they have, some of the communities they're part of, just everything. Who the hell was a part of that meeting to have heard this apology? Like, that isn't connected in some way. Like, who the hell could have been there?
I think that I don't want to say this is.
And I'm not telling you. I'm not asking you to speculate. By the way, I'm really not.
No.
That's the question. It's just like, who the hell was there?
No, I'm not speculating. I'm not going to speculate this at all. I do want to know like who was there. I could see certain people, and this is again not speculate on who. I could see people attending to hear him out, right? Of just like, okay, let's see what he actually has to say about this. Not, oh, I'm going to attend because I actually believe he's wrong for what he said. I could see people attending, especially if Giselle wasn't going to be there. And then I could see whoever attended going to her and being like, this is what was said. Do you want to talk to him more? And clearly it doesn't seem like she wanted to, and that's completely her right. So I could see that being the reason they attended.
Yeah. And that's understandable. It's fine. Hear him out, and that's that. It is what it is. Glad that this has been taken care of, and hopefully in the future, this is not an issue that we have to talk about, especially on these circuits. Because, man, it was such a shitty way to be not watching, but like be being part of WrestleMania weekend and taking in WrestleMania itself, because I'm pretty sure that Giselle dropped that statement like at the end of night one, which was like Sammy and KO win the tag titles and everyone's super happy if they're watching WrestleMania. I think that was time. I could be off, but it was still WrestleMania weekend.
It
was like everyone was so on a high from a really, really solid 2-night event. If you were watching the WWE product, that like seeing that was just like, oh, that sucks, man.
It wasn't. So this is when I wrote the article. This is when the statement came out. It was April 1st at 12:47 a.m. So it was actually, and WrestleMania Night 1 was April 1st. So it was actually the morning of, so it was before WrestleMania had actually taken place. So it was probably like after Janela's spring break.
Yeah.
Everybody's still up. I'm pretty sure like I was probably watching Janela's spring break, Kota Ibushi and Joey Janela, and Giselle comes out with the statement.
So regardless, it's a busy week, a busy weekend, and people are on a high. People are really enjoying the wrestling, and it just sucks to read that. And it's from someone that I personally like, that I've spoken to before, in interview format, and Giselle has been nothing but a very sweet human being to me, and I think she's great as a wrestler, as a person, and just to see that someone gets treated that way, I think it's bullshit for something that's like, whatever. I'm not even going to get into this, but it's silly that in 2023 we have to deal with this shit. Okay,
it is, and that's unfortunately it's how people, whether in wrestling or outside of wrestling, still think and act, and we can all just be better in a lot of areas.
Let's strive to be better, man. And conversations like these are hopefully what start bigger conversations that get us better. Let's move on. We got a few minutes left, so let's talk about Dynamite tonight. It's blood and guts. There's only 3 matches on the card, officially at least. You got the FTW Championship. Hook defends against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. We're finally doing it, or are we? What do you think, Jeremy? Is Hook finally going to lose a match? Is it going to win? What's going to happen?
I think Jungle Boy should win. I think you put the title on him. You go ahead and you get the undefeated part out of Hook's character, because I never really like that unless you're like really going full bore. Like there just ain't many good undefeated streaks. It gets tiring after a while. Goldberg was an exception, and that was years and years ago. So I think Jungle Boy should win. I think you should cheat to beat Hook and just add a little bit more to that feud. I think it'll be a good match, though. Jungle Boy's still a good wrestler. I know people are down on like character stuff, but still works very well. I think he'll bump really well for Hook, as Hook like tosses him around and everything. I'm excited for this match, but I would have Jungle Boy win.
It's a fine match because, again, there's a story here, which I appreciate, with Hook and Jack, because Forbidden Door, of course, Jack Perry decided to take out Hook after losing to Sonata. Jack still wants singles gold in AEW, so there is a bigger story there, and I appreciate it. Like you, I'm ready to see Hook lose, just like I was ready to see Jade lose when she eventually did. We talked about that on the show and how I felt about it at the time. But the whole reasoning behind wanting Jade to lose is so that we can continue telling different stories with wrestlers who aren't just, we're undefeated, oh my goodness. Now we can do that with Hook if he drops the FTW title to Jack Perry. I want to see the reaction from Hook. I want to see just the fallout from it. And I want to see Anna JAS being the driver.
And if Hook wins this, it's a big knock on the heel character, the newly turned heel of Jack Perry as well. It's like, all right, dude, you just turned on this man. Now you got your ass beat. What's the next step for old Jungle Jack? He goes crawling back to Christian in that scenario. I don't want to see that duo again.
Nope,
as a heel, I don't really care to see that. So I want to see Jack Perry stand on his own. If you add Anna to that, that's fine because that's a real relationship, and I think it can add some heat to the character of Jack Perry, especially from that audience of like, hey, fuck this dude for having this hot girlfriend type of thing. People don't like that. That's why they turn against Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello. They don't like it. So yeah, I would like to see Jack Perry win and then see where they go from there. Because if Hook wins, I don't really know what the next step is for him after that.
Does Hook get someone, let's say Anna does come and join Jack, and I'm not advocating a mixed tag or anything. Does Hook have somebody come in and become his friend, and they do some sort of feud between the two so that it evens out the corners? Layla Hirsch is someone, even though she's doing some Ring of Honor work, but the backgrounds are similar, quote unquote, in a way.
Right. Layla's maybe just do Danhausen. Just Danhausen still hurt, but get Hookhausen back out there, baby.
Just keep putting together the tag teams. But if Danhausen comes back and they turn Danhausen, poor Hook.
No, Danhausen's not turning. He's babyface. He can't turn Danhausen. Danhausen just reunites with Hook. He's like, I see you need some help. And then you can do Danhausen can bump for Anna, and nobody's gonna think twice about it. It'll be fine.
All right, maybe we'll see, but I'm looking forward to the match tonight. It's gonna be fun. Possibly could open up the show. I could see that opening up. If not, actually, you know what? No, I see this opening up the show. The Blind Eliminator Tournament final. MJF and Adam Cole take on Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. Is it? Are we going with MJF and Adam Cole to the tag finals, or is this the moment where MJF turns on Adam Cole, baby? Or Adam Cole gets a one-up on MJF before MJF tries to turn on Adam Cole, baby?
It feels like Garcia and Sammy win because them against FTR sort of makes more sense. But okay, I said you should stretch this out. And they're going to lose. I mean, maybe they win. Maybe they win the tag titles, right? I'm all for it. But either they lose tonight or they lose to FTR. Regardless, they're losing in one of these two matches. Stretch it and give me a couple more weeks of MJF and Adam Cole. Have them win tonight. And then if they got to lose to FTR, they lose to FTR. I would have them beat FTR, though.
That's the thing. MJF and Adam Cole winning stretches that out to the tag match and then an inevitable turn. Or if you have MJF and Adam Cole with those tag titles, I don't want to do this, but you have a story to tell until All In and All Out, where at All In, you can have MJF and Adam Cole lose those tag titles, but then at All Out, you can't immediately be like MJF, Adam Cole for the title. So it doesn't.
You can. Why can't you?
Because it feels like you're rushing it. Because what's the main event for All Out? Unless you've got a massive main event for All Out that involves, not just outside of the world title. So if it's like a CM Punk match, but it's a massive CM Punk match,
you probably got a massive CM Punk match for All Out in Chicago.
The massive CM Punk match that I think of would be MJF for the world title.
That's fair. I mean, they'll have something for Punk regardless. They will. All Out's going to sell. It's probably already sold out at this point. Anyway,
yeah, they had people fighting for the lives in the ticket line the other day.
Yeah, so All Out's going to sell regardless. I think it's not short notice if you think about it when it comes to Adam Cole and MJF. If you do this first week of September, they've been building this since 4 weeks ago when they had their first match.
My point is more if they have the tag titles and they're being friendly and they're winning their tag title defenses, and then they go to All In, which is a week before, and like that just leads into a new. It doesn't feel. It feels very contrived to get to a world title match, a one-on-one world title match, because you had the tag titles and you had to have them and then drop them. That's my feeling.
You have the tag titles at All Out. Adam Cole does the "I'm gonna get you before you get me" type of thing. The problem is you don't want MJF taking a pin in this scenario, even if it's a tag team match, and that's the tough part. So maybe Adam, yeah, it's not okay. So my issue is less of like it's too soon. My issue is more of like it's tough to sell me on MJF taking a pin in a tag match and then a week later defending his title. I don't like when guys take pins when they got this big match. This is what I hated about Adam Cole losing to Orange Cassidy, and then he gets a world title shot against Hangman Page, but it was a lights out match, so it's like it didn't count on the record. Nah, man, I saw him got pinned. All right, you can't tell me that he didn't lose that match. So Adam Cole like losing, getting pinned, and even if MJF turns on him and Adam Cole turns on MJF after the afterwards, regardless, like I just saw Adam Cole get pinned and now he's challenging for a world title. You just do a triple threat match. They love that stuff anyway. I don't actually know. They don't do too many tag team triple threat matches, but you do a triple threat match, nobody gets pinned, and then or nobody gets pinned, and then or neither one of them get pinned. Then you do the turn after the match. So my issue is less of like, oh, it's too soon. My issue is I don't need either to see either of them get beat a week before they have this world title match.
FTR, J Juice, MJF, Adam Cole, triple threat, all in.
There you go. There you go.
And then Jay finally pins Dax in the ring with tag titles.
Yeah, and then Adam Cole and MJF are upset at each other, and then Cole can hit him, and then Cole can set up the world title match the following week for All Out.
Who knows? We'll see. I'm not super jazzed about doing that a week behind each other, but also like I don't know. That's the weird part about doing All In and then a week later All Out. It's like, can you set up these stories with a week buffer in between for the big stories?
What's gonna be hilarious is when they announce these matches and people are gonna have to be like, I challenge you for All Out. It's like, why challenge him on the lesser show? Go to Wembley in front of 80,000. Why are you doing it in front of 20 in Chicago? You'll be in Chicago again a week later. Just, just do the bigger match at All In.
I agree. But I'm looking forward to the match tonight. It's going to be a good tag match. Those four are going to go a little nuts. And then finally, Blood and Guts. That's the big main event. Blackpool Combat Club Golden Elite. It's going to be Moxley, Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, Takeshita, and Pac is the fifth man, taking on Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi. We talked about this earlier, the idea of Ibushi and Claudio becoming the ROH main event off of the heels of this match. Did the Golden Elite win, or is it Blackpool Combat Club out on top?
It should be Golden Elite. It should be. By the way, Tony Khan says tonight is the biggest show of the year. AEW Blood and Guts. So when he tries to tell you All In is the biggest show of the year, do not fall for it, because tonight is the biggest show of the year. All right. Just remember what Tony Khan said on Twitter.
Maybe he means the biggest television show of the year.
I feel like they've tried to sell that one too. Tony, a king of hyperbole, of like every show is the biggest show ever. Every show is the greatest card ever. Every show is pay-per-view worthy and everything. I think there's diminishing returns if you oversell everything like that. Look, AEW is a great television product, great product in general, in my opinion, but like, just don't tell me every show is the best ever when next week you're going to tell me this is also the best ever. I'm not going to believe you after a certain point. The show stands on its own, right? Nobody's looking at this and be like, yeah, you know what? This show isn't that big. Everyone can tell this is a big show. You don't need to say biggest show of the year. Okay. Golden Elite should win. And I think Golden Elite should win because I always like when like the more kind of cohesive unit wins this stuff. And they are certainly the more cohesive units. Like you got Takeshita, who is maybe aligned, not aligned with Blackpool. Callis is there doing things and whatnot. And then Pac was very kind of last minute type of thing. And his reasoning for wanting to go after Kenny and the Elite makes sense, but he doesn't really have ties to Blackpool in that way. So I like when the more cohesive unit wins these things. So now looking at it is who quits for the teams? What makes sense of who actually quits? I don't know if you can get Omega to quit. Ibushi shouldn't. Hangman, I don't think. So maybe one of the Bucks. I can buy one of them, like being like, all right, you know what? Nope, done type of thing. The other side, I think this is a cop-out, but I'm not totally I could see it happening. Does Callis quit for the Blackpool side? Like Kenny is about to maim this man, and Callis is like, we quit. I don't know if you can do that. Does Takeshita quit for Callis because he doesn't want to see Callis get beat up? Can you do that? Or is it, do we have somebody like Yuta quitting? Moxley ain't quitting, right? They ain't doing that. I don't think it's a good look if Claudio quits when they still have the ROH synergy. They don't want their ROH champion being like, I quit. Pac, I don't fully see it. Takeshita, I could maybe see it. And Yuta, I can see it, but man, they kind of make him look like a bitch too often. And I think they should like not do that as much, because you can only go to the Yuta needs to get tougher, Yuta needs to get tougher, Yuta needs to get tougher thing. Like you can only do that so much, because what that basically means is like he just gets his ass beat a lot. And sooner or later, they got to get sick and tired of him getting his ass beat and losing these matches.
How many times do you think Bryan Danielson can say, I'm going to have Wheeler Yuta run around the Boston Commons for 20 times for losing the match at Blood and Guts? You're right. I don't think Yuta should drop the ball. I still think it should be Claudio, and I still think it should set up the match at Ring of Honor, because guess what they just did with Athena and Willow? Very similar deal with the women's championship there over at Ring of Honor.
Okay, so Claudio quits, and then
but it doesn't have to be a submission. It could be a pin.
No, they like the I quit gimmick. They don't do the pinfall. They do the like, this man is quitting for the team.
That's dumb.
Yeah, they don't do the pinfall, because let's look at Blood and Guts history. Sammy quit because MJF was gonna toss him off the cage.
Did it anyway.
And then what's that?
Did it anyway.
Yeah, it did it anyway. And then last year, Menard tapped out before Jericho tapped out. It's submission or like I quit only in these Blood and Guts. They don't do they don't do the pinfall stuff, which I respect. I respect that.
So then who's got the submission on the Golden Elite side? Like who has a submission move that would finish the match?
The Jacksons both use a sharpshooter. They do.
I know, but like I mean, like a thing that's going to actually be I don't want to say believable, but like something that they've used to win matches frequently enough that people would be like, oh, okay, you know. Again, Coda could use something. I don't know what to do.
They all could just use some type of submission. And
Coda's
again, this is, what's that?
Oh, Coda's Kimura.
This is where I wonder if Callis factors into the decision of Kenny's gonna one wing Angel Callis, and Takeshita's like, no, don't do that. Like, I quit type of thing. And then you set up Takeshita and kind of Blackpool feud potentially, because they ain't gonna be happy that Callis has weaseled his way in here. Takeshita's quitting for them. Does this extend the Blackpool Elite feud? Like, how does that play out? Because this should be, here's the thing. This should be the ender, right? It should be done with Elite Blackpool after this, but not totally sure they will be, because you're missing two integral parts of this feud, and that's Danielson and Kingston. There's still more to tell, I think, with both sides of this. So I could see this, despite Blood and Guts seemingly should be the ender, the decider, they actually find a way to extend a little bit, and not an immediacy extending. Maybe you branch off elsewhere, but then you circle back to this feud.
Well, we'll circle back to this feud on Friday at 10 a.m. when we're back in the weeds talking about the fallout from Blood and Guts and a whole bunch more. Jeremy, plug the stuff. Let's get out of here.
Don't follow me on Twitter. Follow Fight Talk _ on Twitter. I will plug so tomorrow, new episode of The Spotlight. I'm back after missing last week due to travel. Tomorrow we have an interview with Jeremy Padower from Jazzwares, does the AEW figures and does just, used to do the WWE figures, everything. Very fun interview. I think like our longest interview ever. It's over an hour long. We talked to a lot of, Steven Jensen, big time into the figures. So Jensen had a ton of questions. So really fun interview with Jeremy Padower. That'll air tomorrow as part of the Spotlight. Otherwise, we got a bunch of stuff on Fightful. Go watch it.
Yeah, every single day we're dropping content, going live. You do the thing. Go and subscribe to us here on the channel. Leave a thumbs up on this video if you have not already, and we appreciate when you do. Until then, I am Actual Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary, we will see you on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern for a new one. Take care.